Hi, friends. Dustin Bauer here, your neighborhood queer witch, I guess, friendly neighborhood queer witch. And I wanted to hop on here because, I need to make some videos. I've been hesitant to do it because some pretentious perfectionism is getting in my way, and I need to just get over the fact that I'm just me, and let's just be me in front of a camera, I guess. So I want to do a couple things today. I want to let you in on what I mean when I say I'm a queer witch, and so we're gonna look at being queerness, and we're gonna look at witchcraft, and then I wanted to let you know about some things on the horizon for Fresh New Brew that I'm really excited about. So. Yes, I am a queer witch, and what I mean by that is I'm queer and I'm a witch. So there's this commentary on my sexuality and my gender. There's also this identity regarding my spirituality, but also a social and political identity, which is very important. So let's talk about queer, right? What do I mean when I say I'm queer? Well, I mean to put it succinctly, I mean I'm mostly straight but a little gay, and that little gay part of me is an important part of me, and that's what I mean when I say I'm queer. I mean, I like to use the analogy of a crayon box. Sometimes we think that ascribing gender to children or whatnot, assigning gender and ascribing the characteristics and qualities of that gender to the child, that this is all additive. But it's both additive and subtractive, right? Because it's specializing. It's specializing in maleness or masculinity, specializing in femaleness or womanness. So manness, womanness, and femininity, and in specializing, we both make better use of fewer options, and then also lose options, right? Because we don't make use of them at all, and that's how we specialize. Whoa, my eyes just did a really weird thing that sometimes people have told me they do, but I've never really seen it for myself. I apologize. but so anyway, yeah. So a good example of this is like language, right? My dad was a psychologist by training, and he would talk about universal garble, and I think this goes back to Noam Chomsky, his language acquisition device, perhaps, and maybe I'm mixing up models, but basically, babies are equipped with, generally speaking, with the ability to mouth to voice any and all sound and syllable common to humanity, and as they are presented, exposed again and again to certain language, they specialize in those sounds, and they lose the ability over time to make the other sounds, and so they become English speakers or Spanish speakers, or whatever, and then they end up as an English speaker not being able to roll their R's very well, such as yours truly here. And so gender's not unlike that. I mean, so basically, let's say you get a baby, and the baby is like a crayon box, and this crayon box is capable of making new crayons. So we're gonna say this baby they present as female, as a girl, and so we're gonna label them as such. But rather than putting certain things into the box, we're going to take them away, because see, this box comes equipped with all the colors, but if that girl, the person we've labeled girl, goes out in the world and tries painting or coloring in boy colors, then they're going to be socially sanctioned, because that's not acceptable. We need to make sure we've got clear demarcation between who is boy and who is girl, so that we can award the boys disproportionate privilege and power, and the girls less. Otherwise, we're going to end up with equality, and oh my God, that would be just the end of everything, right? So yes, because it's a girl, we're going to take out the blues, the grays, the blacks, the bolds. We're going to leave just the soft colors, the pastels, the soft reds and pinks. And so if you're a girl and those are colors you like to color with, then currently in our society, what we've given you with your box, what we've removed from your box and left you with, you might be happy. But if you want to color with those other colors, then you're fucked, right? You don't get to, and that's a problem, right? And so you're either going to live your whole life unfulfilled, frustrated, and unsatisfied that there are pictures that you would like to create that your gender does not allow you to create. And so then you end up queer, like me, right? For me, was, you know, assigned boy at birth, raised as one, socialized as one, and now do generally identify as a man. And but I'm also queer in the sense that I want to use the other colors sometimes. I want to use pinks and pastels. I want to wear makeup. I want to, you know, break my wrist. I want to, you know, speak with a soft sort of sensitive or effeminate little, I don't know, but you know, I these things that people have pointed out to me for years are more reminiscent of femininity than masculinity. I want to be able to do these things without much social comment other than, oh, I like the way you do that, or I like the way you are. But no, it's been, why do you do that? Why are you like that? Can you please change that about yourself so that you fit more the masculine mold? Can you please start drawing, coloring only with the blues and the blacks and the grays and the earth tones that we gave you initially, because you're making everyone uncomfortable, because you're forcing us to confront the reality that we do not fit into a strict binary, but that there are both ands, right? Both man and woman existing in the same person sometimes. And you know, I don't go so far as to call myself two-spirit, because that would be cultural appropriation. That's a very specifically a Native American identity. But what I will say is that there's a whole spectrum of gender present within me, just as there is a whole box of colors here to choose from, and I'll be damned if I'm going to let people take my colors from me. That's as much, you know, an expression of my artistic identity, not autistic, artistic identity, as much as it is, you know, just a queer sexuality and gender sort of identity. So there you go with that. You know, imagine that the man box, the woman box. Imagine that. Well, imagine you have to cut off any part of yourself that doesn't fit into it in order to fit into it. And if there's a little bit of queerness that you got to cut off, it's painful, but it's not the end of everything. But if all you are is queer, then you've got to essentially erase your entire self for the benefit of no one. So fuck that. Okay. And I do also quite enjoy the freedom of being able to drop the expletives without worrying about whether I'll still have a congregation to serve tomorrow. And you know, I love that about Nadia Bowles-Weber, that she just, even as a straight up Lutheran pastor, she'll drop them in church, not in a sermon, not care at all. Check her out, she's cool. Not just for that, but I like her ability to be real in that way. The witchcraft thing, yeah. So that is, well, I started practicing. It actually started with Jungian psychology. I got into depth psychology. I got introduced to a guy named Ken James, who teaches Jungian psychology as it applies to tarot, and how we can utilize these concepts such as projection and synchronicity. In tarot, we can stimulate the experience of acausal coincidental meaning, right? In two seemingly acausal events, we can derive from both of them a shared meaning, or give them a meaning that then significantly alters our interior and exterior lives. So that's pretty powerful, and that was my introduction to any sort of magic or witchcraft, really. But honestly, if I'm real with you, Christianity itself is an introduction to magic and witchcraft. Jesus was a Jewish magician. I've got several books that testify to the fact that that's one of the few things that we know about the historical Jesus of Nazareth, is that many regarded him as a Jewish magician. So do with that what you will. But yeah, so prayer is casting spells now, right? And let's see, the rituals are still rituals. They're just slightly different. My prayers and worship are usually sent to the goddess now, Mother, and which same entity, right? Just a different attribute, different set of attributes of the same entity, but it, when you're dealing with infinity, to get to the opposite side of infinity, that's quite substantial, right? That's a qualitatively different. But we need both, and paganism recognizes the need for wholeness and the spectral, realities that exist between extremes, and that's part of the beauty of it. So I got into witchcraft more and more. Started well, I from the time I was a kid, I love mythology, and my love of words and symbols made, and in all of my time as a pastor, actually, in the scriptures, it really helped me to understand the tarot in an intuitive way. And then I got into Kabbalah, and then numerology. I was always into astrology big time, and so I just got deeper into that, and basically a lot of magical and mystical sort of disciplines coming together, converging for me in the practice of witchcraft. And so that's how I arrived at that. But it's more than that too. It's also so someone's playing basketball outside. So it's also a social and political identity, right? Because as a pastor, I was always taking issue with these, what I considered the four great evils, which are white supremacy, Christian nationalism, heteropatriarchy, and capitalism. And I would contend with these things from the pulpit and not get much buy-in, right? Because a lot of Christians like these things, and in fact, a lot of the Christians conflate these things with Christianity, which is precisely the problem. And so, in a way, I had to differentiate myself from my parent faith in order to help present my parent faith members with a mirror of themselves, right? A reflection, a more accurate reflection. Because as long as I was on the inside, calling myself a Christian pastor, there's no questions asked. People just make a bunch of assumptions about who and what I am and what I'm about. And unless I'm actively saying I stand against these things and for their opposite, they assume that I stand with them on all their bullshit. And then if I make it explicit that I actually represent a very different kind of Christianity, one that I think is more authentic and more genuinely in accordance with Jesus's the spirit of Jesus's life and teachings, now we're in conflict with one another, and they're calling me an apostate and a heretic and not a real Christian and a false teacher, and maybe I should, be burned at the stake. And so if you're going to burn me at the stake anyway, why don't I just smack a label on it that fits? Well, call me a witch. But it's more than that. It's that traditionally practitioners of witchcraft have been feminists. Traditionally, many feminists have embraced witchcraft because of the way that it supports the feminine expression, the feminine element in all of life. And then with regard to the witchcraft, yeah, a queer witch, I mean, by identifying in that way specifically, I am challenging white supremacy, Christian nationalism, heteropatriarchy, and capitalism all together, all at once, because I I'm stepping way outside of the status quo on which those things operate. And if I call myself a progressive Christian pastor, even people, they're not listening to me. They don't care. Even if I'm saying, these are the great evils and we need to stand against them, they're like, yeah, we figured that out already, and we don't need another Christian telling us how to live our lives, because so many people are so sick of Christians trying. So now you get a queer witch trying to tell you how to operate. No, I mean, really though, when I say I'm a queer witch, I got so many questions. What is that? My brother, whom I love dearly and who has been incredibly supportive of me through this, even though I'm sure there's lots of questions still that remain for him, and probably some places of divergence in our understanding of things, and he might not fully understand or agree with my way, but I do feel that he supports me, which I'm grateful for. But he asks, what's a queer witch? It's a pretty simple question. Well, I hope I've answered for myself my understanding of what that is today, and yeah, that's just the point. Is it does get people asking, what's a queer witch? And now we're talking about how we need to stand against white supremacy, Christian nationalism, heteropatriarchy, and capitalism. We need to stand against these things. Now we're talking about how we need to make space for people who don't fit the binary, who, in order to fit the binary, would have to erase their entire selves, right? We need to make space for faiths and traditions and spiritualities and wisdoms that are not, your typical status quo white Eurocentric Christianity, right? So that's my sharing for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope it was illuminating. I look forward to doing more sharing for you in the future. The future holds, right? I've got a book coming out here in the near future, Sigil Magic. I call it Sans Vowels. Sans Vowels, right? I know it's a tricky title, but it makes sense when you understand how sigil magic works, and especially the Austin Osman Spare variety of it that I teach in this book, and that we make use of. So that's going to be super cool. Look for it. It's meant to help you essentially reprogram your brain to be all positive self-talk, manifesting the life you want for yourself, the life you intend for yourself. So I hope to facilitate some good stuff in your guys' lives in that way. Val's working on the edits now. Also, Val and I are going to be starting a new business in the future. We're going to change our names to Noble Bauer. So we'll have each other's surnames, trying to embody our feminist ethic in that way. And then, true egalitarian, equitable partnership, right? And so we're going to then start an LLC and offer holistic care where I'll be giving personal consultation and life coaching, and Val will be giving, she's going back to school to get her her APR in advanced practice registered nurse degree, and together we'll make a dynamic duo doing some good healing work in our community. So I look forward to having Val on at some point to share more about that. Also, in the near future, I'm going to have my good friend and colleague Joe Bear on Fresh New Brew, and we're going to play 13 questions with Fresh New Brew and get to know all about Joe and her coaching enterprise and her story and her hopes for the future, both her own and ours as a community of witches and wanderers. So thank you, friends, for your time today. I've very much enjoyed sharing with you. Like this stuff, share it, whatever, subscribe, comment. I want to get community engagement. That's what so much of this project is about, is calling community together. So let me know your thoughts, questions, all that good stuff. Peace. Blessed be.